Hello there and welcome to Ancient Theories channel. Last week I visited Turkey. I took a flight to Antalya and stayed inside. What's interesting is that Side is actually an ancient port city founded by Greeks about 700 BC. But hear me out on something else. In recent months, or years in fact, I hear voices like, archaeology is dead, or they should dig there, or why are we not funding archaeological expeditions anymore? And there is a little turmoil around Gobekli Tepe and the fact that it is not going to be unearthed in the near future, or who knows when or if even, and bloody hell, why aren't we drilling in Egypt's greatest pyramid when there is data showing known cavities in it? Well, you can probably add more statements here. A lot of questions which require not a tremendous amount of work to get some answers, right? Why are we in a stalemate? The thing is, we shouldn't be, we can just be more active, right? Right. Let me tell you something about my experience in Turkey. So, as you know, I stayed inside. It was early September, so the temperature was around 32 degrees Celsius, which is hot but bearable. I took my sandals, sunglasses and phone with a newly bought local Turkish SIM card and went on a trip around the ancient Side. First of all, there is a museum of Side which was locked, due to renovation or conservation, who knows. I was there in the ancient Side on 5 different days, at different times from early morning to late night hours, and no work was actually going on. No workers, the crane was in the same position for those 5 days, and nothing was even touched by humans. You can say it was too hot, or maybe everybody had holidays at that time, whatever. The museum was locked, and all the artifacts which could be easily transported from excavation sites were in that museum or in the other one in Antalya. But the amphitheatre was not locked, it was open. Well, it is gated and you have to buy a ticket. €17, about $20 for one ticket for one person. Nothing to see, just an old amphitheatre. Artifacts are in museums and they charge you €17 for entrance, give you about 50 meters of the assigned tour and that's it. You can buy more of those meaningless tickets inside, take a walk here on this ancient road which is conveniently lightened in the night hours, or just buy a ticket to walk around the excavated area where nothing much stayed. And everywhere there are souvenir shops, little bazaars, and of course the kebab places, a lot of low-quality kebab places. Not restaurants really, those are kebab stands. There is also the finest monument of Side, which are the remnants of the Temple of Apollo. And those are not gated, no tickets, just a swarm of tourists. They probably couldn't find a way to gate it without locking the whole area, but the construction, and let's call it renovation, is going on. There are some fences, cranes and equipment. Still, nothing was being done on those 5 days. Not even one worker on those sites. Not even a guard, nothing. Just blockades. And they're also unsupported, under the radar structures like ancient hospitals or ancient baths which you can just go to without any ticket and do whatever you want there. Sit on 2,000 years old benches? I don't know, dig a hole, play with the rubble, who cares? There is nobody interested in those. Maybe they don't think you would buy a ticket to those places, so if there's no money in it, then well. They are building more souvenir shops and kebab stands, and those constructions are going according to schedule, the workers are present. There are locals for rent. There is this area with a glass floor for you to see the ancient foundations, and in some places, there are still columns, which now can be a part of a restaurant or just lying on the side of a road. The rubble was placed in some ancient walls, probably houses which don't add up. There is no reason for a column erected by the state or city to mark the main road to lay in someone's ancient house, but they put it there because I don't know. And there are fragments of ancient walls incorporated into hotels' fences. You can name it. And this state of things is not only Side. €17 for a ticket to the amphitheatre in Aspendos. Same tickets all around the coast. And the artifacts are already excavated and moved to museums, which is good, I guess. But why don't they put them on display in the places of excavation when they already secured those places and even move into them some rubble for better effect? You know why. Then you wouldn't buy a ticket to a local museum just to see some coins. They even stripped the floor mosaics and moved them into museums if those weren't damaged, mostly during the excavation. And yes, they pour concrete to support the most damaged pieces of structures. Or they don't, maybe it was someone else who poured it, they just keep it that way for convenience. Especially around those hotels and restaurants. Okay, on my second or third day, I met a few local guides, or should I say local Turkish men selling local trips and renting electric bikes and quads. They just give you a leaflet and speak a few sentences in English. But I was lucky enough to meet my guy Mustafa. You see, when you insist on knowing more about something or show a place on a map on your smartphone, they just give up and call for someone else to deal with you. Because they are there just to sell and bargain with you. And after some of that game, this seller gave up and called for Mustafa, his boss if I understood it correctly. And this boss guy, Mustafa, knows English, maybe not fluent English, but you can talk with him for real. And you see, there are some interesting places around in the radius of 100 kilometers from Side, like the ancient city of Lyrbe or Seleucia. They still don't know which one of those is in that spot on that hill which I showed on my map, so you just need to say something like, I want to go to Seleucia Lyrbe ancient city. Please tell me how to get there. And Mustafa is a decent guy. He told me it's a little bit tricky to get there, but didn't explain what was the tricky part. He was like, if I want to, I should rent a quad from him and go with Google Maps, and it should be okay if only I have any experience with quads in the mountains. But I was with my wife, and when I told him that we were going together, then he was like, I know a guy who can rent you a Jeep with a working air conditioner, or you can take a trip with a group and guide, but you will spend there only 30 minutes or something like that, because there are more stops that this trip covers. We talked more, and after all, I don't have experience with quads, and those Turkish people drive like crazy people, without any turn signals. There is only a horn on the road. The red lights are optional stop if there are no police around, and driving and talking via phone, drinking cola, because they don't drink alcohol, and counting money at the same time is not mandatory, but is common thing there, like there is no tomorrow. Mustafa got me a good deal, due to the fact that I was only interested in one site, and gave me a deal on my next purchase without any silly bargain games common in Turkey, but the most important thing is that he was honest about everything, which isn't common there. About that trip I will talk in another video, but when I was back I went to him again and talked about other ancient sites in the region. The first one proposed by him was Aspendos, which is a big note from me. It is another gated amphitheatre sucking money from tourists. I wanted to go to Termessos, but he quickly told me that it's too far for them inside. I should go to Antalya and look for a guide there, because even if it's only 100 kilometers from the side, it is in higher mountains, and I need a local driver who knows the roads, or I can rent a Jeep, not a quad, and make a trip there. But he wasn't in Termessos himself, like ever in his life. Then I asked about sites closer to the mountains, further than Lyrbe city, in the higher mountains. You see, there is this green canyon and green lake in this region, and beyond that, there is a site which is probably the true city of Seleucia, and it is in good condition. But there is no archaeological work done, or maybe some is done, but not much at all. The site is pretty remote, obviously for defensive reasons, and close to a water source, which is important, because, for example, the Termessos fall was due to an earthquake that destroyed its aqueduct. And Mustafa was aware of this site, which was extraordinary. Most of those local guides or sellers don't know much about the region, or maybe they are just focused on selling part. But Mustafa told me there is no guide to that site. I would need a Jeep and a lot of water, some basic tracking equipment, even just good boots, no ropes needed, and I could go there, but not in September. It was too hot for that adventure. At least he said that it was too hot. He even told me that he won't help me rent the Jeep for the trip to this site because, well, for my safety, which again, not a common thing in that place. After all, I didn't buy another trip from him, and I just spent more time inside, which was pleasant for some time but felt exhausting after a few days. A week later I was on a plane, going home, recording tourist mountains from above. So what is the state of archaeology in Turkey? Well, what archaeology? There is no archaeology, there is business, only business. New discoveries are required only if tourism dries up a little. New sites in remote places aren't even excavated because it would be hard to deliver tourists there. If a site is hard to gate and to charge fees for tickets, then it should be excavated and stripped, and everything valuable should be placed in the museum for more tourists, traffic and ticket fees. Most of the guides don't know how to get to remote places and are sellers or caretakers, because if a foreign tourist gets hurt or lost, that is a bad thing for the business. The local drivers are assigned to one track, only one track, again and again, just to make sure everybody knows their roads and won't fall from a cliff or get in a crash with tourists on board. Well, you don't feel exactly safe on board with those drivers on the road, but for their standards, it's all good and low-risk entertainment. Archaeology is just one motor of tourism. Nobody cares about ancient history. They want euros and dollars. Even their prices are in euros. Some of them were a little bit surprised when I asked about the price in local lira, which sometimes was better and sometimes was worse, depending on the seller's attitude or calculations. Listen, guys, they already know their ancient history, and their history starts with a certain prophet and a certain book. There is no pork, and the taxes on alcohol are higher than Hagia Sophia because locals don't drink it at all. And for them there is no tomorrow, and even if there is tomorrow, then the day after tomorrow is just a vague mystery of God. And people are not supposed to care about those mysteries, because all the answers are already in that book. What good can bring them those excavations? Only more tourism or blasphemy, because statues or images of humans are not allowed. And in those mounds, in those sites, there are images, there are mosaics, and there are statues of humans. And the only thing they can do to ensure living a good life according to that book is to destroy those images of humans. And that would be an international crime. So they will only damage them a little, just to tell themselves that those pictures or statues don't depict humans after all. And I have seen that. I was told that, and I believe that it is true. I don't know if this is the state of archaeology everywhere, but it is the state of archaeology in Turkey, and probably in other countries similar to Turkey. And we all know what I mean by similar. Guys, do not expect any significant archaeology in this region till tourism generates a tremendous amount of income there. Archaeology in service of tourism. And sadly, it is not anything new. Till we meet again.